How's this? Oh, okay. How's this? Good? Okay. Organizer of Codepen Chicago. And today we're going to have educators talk about Codepen and how they use it for teaching. And also, we're currently live streaming, and Eric back there, Eric Boyer, is also recording video on top of that. So we'll go ahead and release that after get everything ready. I posted a link for the live stream through Twitter. And oh, yes. And
ShiftGig, really quick.
yes, go ahead.
So ShiftGig is an on-demand platform for hiring specialists, think hospitality, stuff like that, for your services, bartenders, things like that, events like that. Very nice in the back, is helping us do that right now. And it's all handled through an application on your phone. And we have front-end developers here, back there, those two. If you want to come chat with us and learn more about our tech stack and stuff afterwards, during networking portion. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aurelia Jones. I am a developer at Sprout Social. I'm one of the chapter leaders for Go Develop at Chicago, and I am an instructor and co-founder of Coderspace, where we teach web development to high school students. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk through some of the code pins that I used for a recent Intro to SaaS class for Go Develop It, and then we'll look at some of the pins that I've done for Codepen, for Coderspace. So and I'm at Aurelia on both Codepen and Twitter and most other places. So the Intro to SaaS class for Go Develop It was originally designed where students would install Ruby and install SaaS and learn how to use SaaS using the command line. And what I wanted to do, because not all of the students have that background, we were getting students from varied backgrounds, and everyone, the one thing they had in common was that they wanted to learn SaaS. So I wanted everyone to be able to dive right into working with SaaS. So I transferred all of the sample site, this is our sample site, from the Ruby files into Codepen. And I had all of the students, fork the sample site, like sign up for Codepen, fork their own copy of the site on Codepen, and showed them where you would select SaaS as your preprocessor. As well as I showed them how to view the compiled CSS. And I tried to remind them, you always want to look at the compiled CSS. You want to know what the SaaS is doing. And so it worked really well. Everyone was able to dive right into working with SaaS. We did go over not installing Ruby, but installing SaaS and using SaaS Watch and how to use those command line skills. But I didn't want to start out with that. I didn't want that to be the first introduction to SaaS. Codepen was also really useful for showing them how I would use SaaS in the workplace. So this is a rippling play button that I built using SaaS, using a ton of, kind of over-engineered this play button, but like started, you want a different color. So when I built this button, I wanted to be able to work with the designer to make dynamic changes to the button. So if you want a different color, that's this variable here. That's the hover color. So if I want like a blue button, so I've got a blue button, and I hover over it and it's pink. If I wanted 5 ripples, let's see if that works. Probably can't see in the blue, so I'm going to go back to white. And so we use Codepen a lot for quick demonstrations, quick practice of concepts. Some of those, so In this pin, I was demonstrating different CSS selectors. So when I'm building a pin to use in class, I use a lot of comments to tell the students what I'm looking for them to do. So I have comments here in the JS area so that the students know how, that this is the CSS attribute selector exercise, and then they can put their CSS in the CSS area. Some other exercises I've done with Codepen or for CoderSpace. So I might give them a final example of a site that they're supposed to build. And what they would get and what they would fork is a skeleton version of that site. So they can fork the pin and they can, and I can display the finished version. And so their goal is to build according to the finished version of the site. Also made this fun timer. So a lot of times during class, we will give them a set amount of time to either go to lunch or to work on some lessons. So if I want to give them 30 minutes to do the CSS lesson. And then I've got a 30-minute timer. And this is something that the students can fork, and they can look at how the JavaScript is working, look at how the styles are done, and so they can take this and make this their own. More fun with Codepen. So for one of the things that we have done since the second year is hire alumni as teaching assistants for the next classes. And so I think what I did was I showed the students an image similar to these. And I had them walk me through, so like kind of a pair programming exercise, as well as a how much code do you know exercise. Had them walk me through how do I build this image in HTML and CSS. And so with Codepen, I was able to fork a pin for each student. So I had a record of how well each student had done in that exercise. And so I have a copy for each of those students who applied to be TAs, how far we got in building this little mini site. And so my favorite pin and my favorite lesson at CoderSpace is on media queries. And so in this lesson, I walk the students through how to use media queries, how to use min-max, or min-width and max-width, using the story of Destiny's Child. So Destiny's Child started with 4 members, and then 2 of those members were kicked out and replaced, and then one of those members was kicked out. And then Kelly went off to do her solo career. And then Beyonce needs no words, no explanation. We can go backwards. So first there's Beyonce. And then Beyonce and Jay-Z. And then there's Blue. And then there's the twins. And there's the twins. So this was a fun lesson. Like for me, when I was building this lesson, it was just a fun thing to do in Codepen, but it really inspired the students to make it their own. So you had students doing the same thing with their names, doing the same thing with whatever interested them. So they could fork this and pop in whatever they wanted to do to customize their lesson. Yeah, so that is it. I've collected all of those pins in this Codepen Tech Ed collection. Any questions? Brian.
So how do you or I guess, what's the benefit of using Codepen over maybe giving them kind of like scaffolding to work from?
So like giving them scaffolding in GitHub or giving them files.
Yeah.
Codepen lets us just quickly not worry about the scaffolding, not worry about them understanding adding the HTML tag, adding the link tag, adding the whatever. It lets them focus on just learning the concept and using the concept, as well as I can start with the concept and they can fork that.
Was the Beyonce story, was that just CSS or was there JavaScript?
Just CSS. Just CSS and media queries.
Do you find that they want to go deeper into some of the command line technologies once you get them accustomed to using the content, that they want to actually go in and start building things from scratch?
We do build things from scratch in Cloud9 and we push to GitHub. And so that's the only reason I'm not using Codepen projects. I don't know if it pushes to GitHub yet. So once they have those concepts down, they are working on sites. So in the first couple of years, we worked on client sites. They also work on team sites and individual sites, and they're building all of that from scratch. And so they are using the command line there, and whether or not they like it, Cloud9 does give us issues sometimes, and Git was hard to, had to figure out how to teach it in a way where it was relevant, where they understood why they were learning it, why they were using it, because they got really creative. And for their first sites in Cloud9, when they wanted version control, they would just make a copy of their Cloud9 workspace. Or they would do something like wipe out all of their work. So I think in this last year, we taught Git earlier, and somehow, and I don't remember exactly what I changed in the lesson, but I figured out some way to teach it and to make it relevant and to like step through it very slowly, where all but one student liked it. And I think I won that student over by the end of the summer.
Two questions.
Yes.
First question, are you adding Beyonce's performance at Coachella to the story of Destiny's Child?
I think so. I think, let's see. Yes, that should be the last slide after,
right?
yes.
The resurrection.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah.
Second question, I learned front end, obviously starting with HTML, learning the whole like how a document is formatted and all of that. And that was like really unapproachable. I'm curious what the people that you are teaching, when they start without having to even think about that, I'm assuming you go back and fill in the blanks later.
Mm-hmm.
How quick are they to like actually have that click and understand it? Is it easy or is that a tough thing to communicate?
We actually do start with, do we start in Cloud9? Each year, I don't remember how we started the previous summer, but we do start with learning the HTML tag
Okay.
and learning the link tag. I think in the first year, I taught embedded CSS first, and then we moved everything over. And I think in the last few years, I don't think I've done that because I didn't want them to learn that way and get stuck on that.
Yeah. Really cool.
Question?
Does your students' hardware ever play a factor into this? I remember a long time ago when people were starting to buy Chromebooks, Cloud9 was really interesting because they couldn't install a terminal. They couldn't install an editor. And I wonder if that's still the case?
We provide laptops for all the students. We provide Chromebooks, and if they make it through the end of the program, they get to take those home. And so they're all working on the same hardware. And that is why we're using Cloud9. We have started using, there's like a Google, this isn't my computer. There's, I don't remember what it's called. I think it begins with a C, and it's from Google, and it's like a text editor in the Chrome browser that we've used recently. I don't know what it's called. Other questions? All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Bryant.
Are there any other educators that would want to present how they work with students in Codepen? Okay, no one. Okay. Does anyone want to present one of their pens? This is open to the floor. I definitely want people that have not presented to come up first. And if you do, you get an option of like water bottles, shirt. You get first pick. Have you haven't presented, have you? You have not presented. You can come up for sure.
All right. I did not plan this at all, but I'm so super excited to be here. I'm going to show you guys some cool stuff. So, my name is Melanie Sumner, and I am an application architect for JPMorgan Chase, and I'm a member of the Ember.js core team. I also absolutely adore Codepen. So, I'm going to be super excited about life in general and Codepen, and I have two really fun things to show you. Hopefully you'll agree. Let's see, okay. Yes. So I do two things. First, I use Codepen to win all my arguments at work. It's really great for that. I teach accessibility to the other JavaScript engineers that I work with. And I started creating some Codepens to show them. I don't really care what you put into your component or how it renders or what JavaScript framework you use. I do care about how the HTML renders and how that all works together, because people with accessibility needs need us to care about this, right? So I have this awesome collection of Codepens where I take actual samples of code and I put them in here. So which one of these is wrong? We can see that they all kind of look the same, right? But do they? So what we'll do is we'll pull up a screen reader. NVDA is free with Firefox. If you're on Safari, you have VoiceOver. And you can actually go through these and see which one of these works, which one of these is keyboard accessible, which one of these can I actually use, and then you can copy paste the code, and Codepen's really awesome for that, right? This is a really great way to bring better design to the JavaScript engineers in your life. I promise you they want it. They might not seem like they want it at first. They might kind of complain a little bit at first, but they really do want it. And if you can give them examples of how this can make their life easier, they'll do it. And I'm living proof of that. We are currently in our second year of a multi-trillion-dollar project, and we have a federal requirement to make all of our products accessible, and Codepen has helped me do this. Codepen has helped me teach this. I get paid to do this, so I'm kind of lucky, right? But that's how I teach the people around me at work, and they're not necessarily students, but I still get to bring that level of enrichment to their lives in a really easily digestible way. So, yay for that. There's one more, oh no, that's not my collections. There's one more collection I wanted to show you, and that's how we're using Ember, or that's how we're using Codepen in Ember to redevelop the Ember.js.com website. Some of you may think we've gone away. I promise you, reports of our deaths have been greatly exaggerated. Yeah, here.
So we've been working on, or I've been working on, a style guide to bring the awesome adorableness of Tomster and Zoe into the Ember website and just make it more interesting. And this is kind of how we work out design decisions in open source. Like, oh, we want to do this on our website. And Ember's really it's really important to the Ember community that all of our stuff is really visible. So we want this to be anybody can join, anybody can participate, anyone can contribute. And using Codepen has been a really great way to do that, because I can do something like the style guide live on Codepen. Other contributors can fork it. Other contributors can then contribute to the emberjs.com website itself. We can talk about ideas of the learning team and kind of work out where we want to go with it. And then we can use this tool to teach others. So, 2 different ways that I use Codepen to teach people, and both of them are pretty awesome. So, thanks.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to present? Come on up.
Just need a minute to hunt for my URLs. Is it just slash the user?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is this full screen? So, when I started teaching myself, I made a random music generator in Codepen. And there's 4 options. You could create a chord progression, a melody, a rhythm, and a mode and meter palette. So it's all just text. There's no sound. So this was just to teach I started with Python, and I realized you can't really do much on the web with Python unless it's just backend. So someone encouraged me to learn JavaScript, and so this was how I started learning. I don't want to look at the code; it's probably horrible. But anyway, my background's in music, so this was somewhat useful. But you couldn't hear it. You could go make a backing track that was an F-sharp melodic minor in 11/8 in 175 BPM shuffle if you wanted to. You could create crazy rhythms in time signatures. Did I just pick 11 again? Let's see, 13 maybe. So you'd have to sort of decipher this rhythm. And if you don't, this didn't wind up being a great teaching tool because you're teaching the software, not music. So melody-wise, it was like you're going to start with a low 3 and then go to a high 7. That is if you knew if you knew which notes of the scale to go where. And then chord progressions was probably the most useful one because this is actually something readable. So fast forward a while, I have something that you can actually hear stuff. I don't know if the speakers are hooked up. We'll find out. So this is just melodies right now. I use Tone.js for that, just to preview the stuff, and this is all React. Does anybody want to hear anything particular? Chromatic. Let's go a little lower. Oops. We'll do a bunch of notes. can speed it up. I don't know what that could be used for, but it's pretty cool. And it's all random, so like none of this is copyrighted music. If it is, that's purely coincidence and don't sue me. And you can also download it as MIDI, and I think I just downloaded it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Don't ever listen to it. So, I don't know, if there aren't any questions, that's it.
Question. So you're downloading as MIDI. Are you doing that conversion manually, or are you using a library?
It's a library called MIDI Writer JS.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that would like to present? Whoever wants to come up first.
Hello. Once again, I was not planning on presenting, but I'll try anyways. I have to find it. Where are you? Where's public here? Oh, there we go. I made this a little while ago, and it's not really styled or anything, but it is. Oh, there we go. All right. So, hi, I'm Jeremy, and I like Pokemon. And a while back, I wanted to learn React, and I figured, what better way to learn React than to make a Pokedex? And I didn't want to spin up a whole bunch of I want to make like a new project and, and do all the installs. I just want to get to React. So there's a free API out there. It's you don't have to pay for it. It's called the Poke API, I think. I think it's like pokeapi.co or something. But you can use it. It's got a decent rate limit if you're just goofing around. So I installed React because you can easily install that in Codepen, and I think like Foundation or maybe Bootstrap or something. So what this does is it makes a call to the Poke API, and then it pulls it down, and then it just renders all the Pokemon here. So here's a Squirtle, and here's an Alakazam, and well, there's like 700 of them. I'm not going to go through all of them here, but this is just a cool way of getting some public data, Pokemon, and then rendering with React, which it's great for, and then making it look like something at all, which is this. And it's also kind of a cool proof of concept of using Codepen to make for making like an application of nominal value and sharing with everybody. And that doesn't really do anything. I could add more things. There's probably better Pokedexes out there, but this was an easy way to learn all of these things.
Awesome.
Do you want to come up?
Sure.
Yeah, come on.
Thank you. Okay, some familiar faces out there. For those that don't know me, name is Kevin Lesch. I'm a developer at Home Chef. We're just a few blocks away in the Wrigley building. For those I do know, you may remember my pen from the Halloween Codepen meetup, the random jack-o'-lantern that really let the gourd times roll. Okay, I always got to put that one out there, but one day it's going to hit. Anyway, my pen tonight, I figured with the theme being like education-based, we do a little quiz, because who doesn't like taking a quiz on a Monday at 6:50 p.m.? So if everyone has their phones or a laptop, this is a Vue.js Firebase app that's going to use anonymous authentication. So you'll hit this pen, you'll be anonymously logged in, and then we can see some reactive data. And similarly, if you've used like Scantrons maybe in college, there was like a setting there where your teacher could like put the graph up and like you could see results come in real time. We'll have some fun. See if there's some group think here. With people shifting answers potentially. So if you want to go to codepen.io/ K-Lesht. That's K-L-E-S-H-T. And I dropped this pen as the first one in my profile here. So if you want to click that, you should be taken to a welcome screen that looks just like this. Let me go. I would recommend if you hit change view to go to full page, and I'll give everybody a second to get there.
You said the name again?
Yes, that's going to be codepen.io/K-Lesht, which is K-L-E-S-H-T. K-L-E-S-H-T. Yes, sorry, I do not have a bit.ly or anything like that, unfortunately, for you.
Oh, yeah, it's
Is everybody able to get there? Having issues, or are there issues getting there, or?
Oh, no.
No, we're all set.
Oh, we're all there. Okay, maybe it's just me then. Give me just a second. Let's see. Well, you know what? I will. Do you mind if I log you out real quick then?
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, I was trying to pull it up on my phone, but maybe I'm the one having issues here.
Yeah, I just use my laptop so I can go back through the history for all the pens that were shown.
Oh, sure. You know what? Actually, bear with me 1 second. I wonder if it's just because I had my hotspot on. Sorry, everyone. Okay, maybe what I'll do, actually, I'll fire up an incognito window to get there. Okay, these butterfly keyboards. I will learn them one day. Got a separate admin view for myself, but this should work just fine for us. Okay, so let's begin. So this quiz was formed off of, I should have taken advantage of everyone here. I probably could have come up with some great questions and gotten some data from a room full of developers that I could have used for something. But these questions are just from the 2018 Stack Exchange Developer Survey. So if you read that, you'll be sharp, you'll be ready to go. Otherwise, let's see what we have here. So the first question, what was the most popular technology of 2018? And if you submit your answer, we can see that we've got some data coming in and updating in real time. So idea here being maybe you see a ton of people on JavaScript, you want to change your answer if you're not quite sure about where you land. A feature I wanted to layer on top of this, maybe a little timer where put the pressure on, but we'll keep this casual. Everyone can just submit their answers at their leisure. And okay, gonna give it a few more seconds here, and then I think end the voting period here. We ready? A lot of movement between PHP and SQL. All right, I hope you guys are happy with where you're at, because we're gonna close. Oh boy, here. Let's see. That would have been a. Okay. We might have to hop into council and run this function here. Let's see here. Okay, well, plenty of time to change your answer there.
Just command minus. We got to zoom in a lot.
Okay, all right, we're back in action here. Sorry for the delays. Back to full page 2. Great. Okay, so JavaScript was actually voted as the most popular technology, and it looks like the majority of the audience did land there. I think future, another feature I could add on to here would be your answer. Very easy to get. Don't want to steal too much time, but can dig into the Firebase data model to see how this is actually populated, if anyone's curious. Next question. What time, and I promise there's only a few of these, we won't go through the whole survey, but what time do most developers wake up? Maybe you've got a very lax, no butts in the seat culture out there at your office, and you're in a little later. Maybe not so much. Submit your answers, and I think we'll bring this one to a close shortly. There's a good split in this one here. Pretty even out there, huh? Okay, I'm gonna close it down here. 7 and 8, most developers out there. Early risers in my book, I think. 7 to 8, ambitious developers out there. How much time do developers spend outside? I think the answer, yeah. Maybe hopefully more than meat would be a good answer. I don't know. Okay, a lot on less than 30 minutes. Not a whole lot of faith in our sun exposure out there. Okay, gonna close this one down. 1 to 2 hours. This was one where it looks like the majority of the group was wrong. Had some good folks on the right answer there, but less than 30 minutes. Come on, give us more credit than that.
I feel like it's skewed because we had like 6 months of winter.
That's fair. That's fair.
We're just coming out of it.
Right. Got to imagine. I don't know. Should have looked at the geography behind those answering this survey, but have to imagine cities like San Francisco, Austin being developer heavy. Maybe that plays into it. Okay, last question. How often do developers skip meals to be productive? A lot of movement in this one. Everyone just playing around for the last question here. Okay. I think we're ready to close this one down. Never. Luckily, the answer, at least that was most popular out there, was never. Yeah, right. Yeah. And if you are curious, there is some interesting info in that survey. I think they do it every year, but that's where all these came from. Each one of these answers was pulled out of there, and the right answer was just the highest, the one that got the highest rating. And that is the app. So this is just a little Vue.js app backed by Firebase, taking advantage of anonymous authentication. That's what got all of you effectively signed in and able to submit unique answers that were then rallied up and fed back in real time. If anyone wanted to step through it, I don't want to steal the floor from anyone else that wants to submit up here. But
I'm curious, what if I submitted my answer and then refreshed the page and submitted another answer? How does that work?
That's a great question. Yeah. So one of the biggest, I think, challenges. So took this project on and very much trying to learn Firebase data modeling. I'm a Rails developer, so pretty much my exposure to databases is mostly relational, and Firebase being essentially just a big JSON object, querying against it, relating data to each other was for sure a big challenge. And then the other challenge that fits more to your question was just maintaining state and that data across sessions. I think my first stab at this. I got everything working end to end in just my browser window, and then pulled it up on my phone to like spin up another session. Completely inaccurate, had lost like everything. So how that's being handled there is essentially. So before create, we're going to look to see if we have a user, and if we don't have one, then we're going to do that anonymous authentication, at which point our state will change, and we'll be able to set the user on the session. And once we've done that, then we move on to created, and created in view is when the instance is created. So it's at that point that you're going to have access to all of your data's been processed, and you're going to have access to it. So with that, we're able to set up essentially a watch function that's going to listen for changes against a Firebase node that we pass in. And what we've got here is we're setting up a watch function on settings, and that's going to look, what I've got in my settings node is just the question index that I'm iterating through. So we have like those 4 questions up there. And I'm also in this, so once the question index changes, we're also going to kick off this set active question function. And it's in there, little nested, could probably do some refactoring here, but it's in there where we're going to set up all the data for that active question. You know what the key is, which is the index, the question itself, the choices, the answer, and then I then merge. So choices are going to be an array of incorrect answers, and the answer is going to be the actual answer, and then I actually merge those together for like presentation. But then to answer your question, the thing that's that we care about here is we're also binding to this answers node, and that is going to maintain. If we scroll down here and look at this submit answer function, so whenever you hit one of those buttons to submit an answer, we're sending data to answers / question index, which is going to be a reference to the question / user ID. And then, so it's inside that object that's unique to your session that you've just got a real-time connection to your submitted answer. So you could hit your button at your discretion, whichever you like, and it's just going to keep updating that. It's going to keep updating that value, and you'll be able to, and we'll be able to read that data back into our data stream there. Does that answer your question? Yeah, it was fun to put together. Definitely some good challenges there.
I need some colors.
Hey, I'm Jake. I work for Codepen. And I want to show you a thing that I made. Oh, beautiful. So I made this thing on, let's see here. It uses the webcams, so we're going to hope that this works. But we can get into it in a second. It's pretty straightforward, but what's going to happen here is, okay, so we have video, and then, can we change colors? Is that yellow enough? Come on now. I'm trying to get out of that red space. Gosh. Hold on. We got green. Does anyone have any green? Can you just come stand here? Just get close to it. All right, yeah, okay, cool. So that's going to work. So just stand to the left a little bit for a second. No, like out of the screen. Like, just move out so this goes back to the... Okay, so we have these color sliders here, and we're changing the hue of the image. And so what we're going to do here is when I click Start, this is just an arpeggiator, and stand in front of it. So our colors are changing what chord is playing. So, okay, let's try yellow. Thank you. Round of applause. It kind of sucks because different cameras have different hue balance, like the balance of colors is off. Gosh. Anyone looking blue today? Oh, you know what? I should just load a color on my phone. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so now we're in that like indigo. Let's blue it. It doesn't matter. I think we've spanned the gamut, so whatever you want to hear. But yeah, so that's all this is it just looks at the hue. Thank you. That was perfect. Yeah, so that's the thing. We can quickly look at it here. So let's find, we'll just go to the pen view. And we have presentation mode for this purpose. And I'm blowing my nose into the microphone. So one really cool thing, I don't know how many of you have like spent a bunch of time in Canvas, but like right now you can see that like the bit on the right is actually responding to color changes here. And if you wanted to do this in Canvas, like there'd be a couple different ways to do it. You could write the video feed into the canvas, then you sample the canvas as an image, then you go through every pixel and you get the average colors of each pixel. And that takes forever at 60 frames per second, right? So that's happening an insane amount of times. The other cool thing you can do that's way easier is to just create a canvas that's 4 pixels by 4 pixels. And you use in CSS this rendering property. Where are you at, which says image rendering pixelated. So this line right here will make this look pixelated instead of the default, which is going to look like this. Let me run it. Yeah, so this is what you would normally get if you took a 4 by 4 pixel canvas and blew it up to this size, which on the JavaScript end, you can still get the same data, but it looks disgusting. And so all you have to do is just add image rendering pixelated, and it gives you this cool thing. So you don't have to create a big canvas and draw squares that are average colors from a thing. You can just draw it at 4 pixels by 4 pixels, and then you get 16 pixels of your color. So instead of sampling the high-res video, which would be, I don't know, 600 times 600 pixels, you sample the 4 by 4 pixel, and that's how you get your average hue, which ends up being super optimal, and you don't have to just waste a bunch of computer power and have it lag. So that's that. I mean, does anyone have any questions? I guess that's like it's not that much code, and there's really nothing to really get into. You just, I copy and pasted RGB to HSL converters, which take RGB, and you get the hue, saturation, and lightness from that. I didn't write that. That's from Stack Overflow. And I just get the hue, and hue is 0 to 255 in this case, and then you map that on a little doobie, and then you just play music with it. All right. That's that.
Is there anyone else that wants to present? Come on. Come on up.
Thanks. What's going down? Let's see. Okay. Take this off.
What's your username?
Vertica, Virtica. I think we'll do this one. Awesome. Hi, my name is Kenneth Watkins. I am the founder of an organization called Latina Girls Code. But we teach young girls from 7 to 17 how to do tons of things, including basic web development, but also AR, 3D printing, Arduino, tons of stuff. And so one of the challenges we have is that we don't have tons of computers, and most of those families don't have tons of computers at their house either. And so we have to find different technologies and solutions that they can actually go home and actually show their parents, so they just decide about technology. So we decided to use Codepen and start integrating A-Frame and ARJS. And so literally what we do is using a hero marker, which is, let me see if I can put this up in my gallery. This little marker right here, and then integrating basically a couple of JavaScript files, which is A-Frame and then ARJS itself, and enabling the actual webcam. You can point it to it, and you start to see the world, which is really, really awesome. And the kids really, really love that. And you can manipulate it. And so basically all this is a image file of the world that can be wrapped around a spear. One bad thing is it doesn't disappear when you leave it. However, that's really, 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 really awesome. And so the kids really like that, but we try to challenge them a little bit differently. And so this also, we use this thing called Clara.io, which literally is an online service for doing AutoCAD files. And let me see, I don't know which one it is, because I have too many. This is the curved one. So the one fun thing is that some of these kids went home and literally just started changing stuff on their own, which was really, really awesome. So right here, we were actually able to integrate a DAE file. And if you do bring that up again, this little hero marker, you will then see the Latina girls code sign, which is really, really cool. You get to turn it around and things like that, which I think is really, really awesome. And so the great thing also is that because it has the Google Cardboard integration, that they can actually go home and just see the world with the cardboard. And we print out the hero marker so they can actually just look down at it. And then they can change it to whatever. We do basic shapes from spears and boxes and things like that. But that's it.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Are there any limitations you found trying to do VR through Codepen?
Not yet. Not yet, because we're using ARJS and A-Frame. It's just, excuse me. So they're kind of limited to a couple of things, which is basically the shapes inside of the plane. They can't make a direct world outside of it. But that's about it. And we're trying to push it even more with the kids. So they go home and they just go at it.
That's awesome.
Yes.
What is like the interface for making one of those hero markers? Is that a separate, like how would you make the?
So we literally just got that offline, but you can actually really get a recognition of whatever hero marker you want to. So you can actually design your own. Maybe it'd be your face, or maybe it'd be a number or something like that. And then in ARJS in the documentation, it'll tell you how to recognize that actual new marker that you put together.
Very cool. What about like, so like this is Latina Girls Code, like that file. So I have a friend of mine actually like scanned my head to where I can 3D print myself.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome. Can I use that file that he has of my wonderful face?
Absolutely. It's literally just like if you're 3D printing. If you have a DAE file, which is really, really good, it will actually put it off. I know. I think a couple weeks ago we did a Black Panther face, which was really, really awesome. So I mean, the imagination goes wild. But as long as you have the same files that you do for 3D printing or do AutoCAD work, you can easily import it into here. Cool. Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to present? Come on.
you probably know best. Managing large open source projects is always fun. So I got to do the material design icons repository. And our community's gotten a little larger, so give me a second to pull this one up. So the way we're doing our new website is kind of through review. We're starting to hit an issue where we have like 700 open issues, which is, it sounds like a lot, but we close probably 300 a month at this point, so they open and close. So now we're actually keeping track of how many are being opened and closed, and how many kind of, if you guys have ever seen the ability you have right now, we can kind of put a thumbs up on an issue on GitHub, use that. More and more open source projects are actually just tracking on that alone. And we're going that direction. If you do a +1, we literally don't even look at it. So that kind of stuff is ignored completely now. We only go up thumbs up. And then, so we kind of prototyped up a screen. This is, I have 8 contributors. We gave feedback what we want the screen to look like. And this is what we're going to go off from now on to kind of track what's coming through our pipeline. And this is actually what got prototyped like 3 or 4 days ago. And then it actually, well, you can kind of see the source code. It's just Bootstrap 4 if you've used it. It's nothing out of the ordinary, a few custom styles in Sass. The website is built in Angular 5. So within 3 or 4 days, we just copy and pasted that in. And then, oh, oops, not that website. Okay, and now it's online. This is with real data, real time, every 10 minutes the CDN updates, and we can see the actual issues that are coming in, and you can see what icon requests and are going through our system. It's kind of a nice system to get everyone on the same page working together on these larger open source projects. Any questions? Yes?
When did Angular 5 come out?
This is actually, I'm actually just in the process of updating to Angular 6 because it's in, yeah,
They're moving fast.
the version numbers don't mean anything anymore. They're so subtle. There's like no changes between each one, and I've noticed. It's all because TypeScript updates, so they're like, we need this version TypeScript, so then they update. Yeah. It's minor. Any other questions?
Yeah. So how do you go about prototyping in Codepen? And do you also kind of track that through GitHub?
No, we do it kind of separately. We because it's Bootstrap based, Bootstrap gives us all the controls, so we just use a very light layout of what it's going to look like, and then we apply it in here. I do have a lot of custom styles that apply on top of it. Right now, this is literally a copy and paste, a card layout that you kind of see here that I'm copy pasting in. I'll add some more custom styles later on, but that's the basis right now. I'm a huge Bootstrap fan. I could talk about it all day long. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Let's back up. I like to keep putting it back on that.
Is there anyone else? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Brian Hefferkamp, and this is my first Codepen meetup, so thank you for putting it on, by the way. I love Codepen. I've been using it for upwards of a couple of years, somewhat to teach. I work in a corporate environment for a publishing house out in Carroll Stream. So I don't know if you city folks know where Carroll Stream is or not, but it's very far west, very far west. And I have a YouTube channel that I've been working on for, I don't know, 3 years, 2.5 years, and started with just a small free program called MobiRise, and there was just need for documentation on that, so I made some videos and then made some more, and then I started to use Codepen in the videos, and I actually began to see it with the Dev Tips for Designers channel, Travis Nielsen. He started to use it, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe this is something that I can begin to use inside and doing screencasts. And so you're able to watch me code. It's live loading at the same time, and I can do it on a small screen without having to resort to doing a 2-screen setup or anything like that. That's how I use it for education, and I'm going to show you. What I also like about it is I like to be able to, I have small ideas that sometimes turn into big ideas, but most of the time they turn into junk, and so it's like sketching. It's a lot of sketching in Codepen and then tossing stuff aside. I don't actually delete it, but it's just kind of laying around, so if anybody went through my public pins, they'd be like, well, that's junk, 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 junk. Okay, that's okay, you know, and every once in a while they start on Codepen as a small granular idea, and then I can expand it, and then I can just take the files out and put them into a command line build system that I already have. I work mostly in marketing, so my tech stack is pretty basic. I'm just going to show you, this is one that started small. It's called Skimmer, and this is a news app, and just to let you know that you can use just regular old Codepen pens to work with APIs and to actually build real web apps. So this started, it's just a news site. It's using an API, a free one that's called News API, and it's at newsapi.org. And essentially you're just pulling in, they have 130 sources or so, and you can see the sources listed here. Multiple languages. Let's see if it's going to work. It may not work here. But it pulls in multiple languages. It's internationalized, so all of this code is coming in a foreign language. So if you were to read Aftenposten, you would see it in the Dutch, Swedish, whatever that is. I can't remember. But if you're reading some of these others, you're reading it in the original language. I'll show you that in just a minute, maybe. Let's see. So that's one app that started. And then I have another one, and maybe the Chicagoans will appreciate this one a little bit more. So this is using I wanted to work with Unsplash. So I've done photography in the past. I love photography, and I love the ability to make images large in the background. And so this was just a basic little photography app tapping into the Unsplash API. I'm using Unsplash as my back end. This is on a rotator every 10 seconds, and you can change that. But essentially, the administration back end, if you've been on Unsplash, allows you to go through and create collections and things like that. So I'm just tapping into the collections. This one just happens to be Chicago, and it's just random images that are in this collection that keep getting populated either by me or by someone else. And that one has actually turned into a project. So I actually converted this from this pen to a project, and then I added multiple cities on top of that. So now that one is a little bit more of a project. So it's this one here. So you can just go through and explore the great cities of the world. So there are multiple cities on here, and you can just click on one. And so it's essentially going through. I've personally curated these photographs, and I can go through and make changes at any time. So you can look at multiple cities around the world. And what I love about Unsplash is you get kind of a really cool view of the world. It's not your normal types of stuff. So I used to live in Seoul. So this is, let's see. I used to live in Korea. And so anytime I want to remember, I just go back and I can flip through some of my Seoul photographs. These are randomized. So in the API, it's just a random query. to the photographs, and it pulls it back, and then I'm just pulling a random image off of API or off the Unsplash API. And then I'll show you Skimmer for real. You can look it up. It's skmmr.news. Nope, misspelled it. And so this, with the downfall of Facebook, I hope this is something that turns into something. What I wanted was a small news app. I don't like to read the news. I prefer to skim the news and just get through it quickly and get on with the rest of my day, kind of like I do social media. So I built an app that I would use. I wanted a quality news source, so this news API was free, and it has Reuters that I can just pull in. But there are actually so many different news sources here, including BBC. You can actually pull Google News in from different places all over the world. The Reddit front page. Let's say if you want to get the latest the top stories, so they have a certain number of featured stories that they always are tagging featured, but you can also go in through the API and pull in the latest 100 stories. So essentially this is all it is. If you click here, then it takes you off to the actual, these are just links to the actual news story. Just a basic way, that app actually started in a Codepen regular pen. So just the power to be able to actually create, oh, this is the photo app. The power to actually really create a real app. So just kind of fun stuff. Any questions?
Are there API limitations for this API for the new stuff?
There are. They're pretty high. I mean, it's like, I want to say it's 100,000. I mean, it's pretty high before you actually get in there. And what they do is, one call brings back all of the information, so they only count that as one call, not each individual instance.
Yeah,
so it's
you're
actually
not getting the full text, you're just getting the...
Yeah, you're getting a summary, you get an image. When there wasn't an image, I just put a placeholder image in for that. And then you get the time, and then you can pull out the news source as well.
Can you combine the sources?
You can. That's phase 2. So I'm creating a better search so that you can actually put together multiple sources and build your own feed so that you can look through the different sources. There's actually the ability to go through and actually put a domain level, and it'll look through those. And the latest, actually, I didn't show you that part, but it's, you can choose by country. So let's say, what's a fun one? So some. Okay, so you can see that you actually get it in the original language. So this is coming in through Spanish. This is Argentina. So it's actually pulling more than, they have some featured news sources, and then they have just a list of like 5,000 news sources that they canvass for the languages. So that's it. There's a dark mode. So if you're reading at night. And everything is persistent. You can do English-only news so that you only get offered news sources that have English content. You can do that in the API. You can filter by language, you can filter by country, you can filter by start and end date. So you can see where the search can get a lot more extensive. So hopefully, if you like your news that way, you can use it. Any other questions? No?
Is there anyone else that would like to present? Let me see if I have anything. I have one thing, probably. All the random particle stuff. Bill Murray. So I can show off a few different CSS animations that are kind of based off of the fundamentals of animation. I can also show off a matching game that I set up. And I'll go ahead and show off this. So this is going to be included in a talk that I'm going to give at Chicago Camp's UX Spring event. And it's going to focus on animation and the web API. And this is kind of a breakdown of the 12 principles of animation. And this is more focused on CSS animation and just kind of showing those different principles being applied to UI. So we have the squash and stretch, the anticipation, staging, pose to pose, follow through. Arc I kind of like, and also secondary action, at least in UI, in introducing UI components and also being able to project to the user what you are introducing to them. And yeah, exaggeration, drawing, or solid drawings, which also includes three-dimensionality, which you can also kind of concept as the introduction towards 3D responsive design when thinking about augmented reality UIs. Appeal, which is more of like a charismatic action. And yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything to show at all? Come on. I'll just do a dance then.
We have time for one more.
We have time for me to dance.
That you are exhibiting?
What?
What's the animation principle that you're exhibiting?
This would be
Anticipation? Or is it, yeah, maybe
it would
it's
be anticipation.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what is going to happen next.
You should combine it with the squash and stretch.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I guess this kind of counts a little bit. So I did like a 3D SVG. I also set it up for device orientation, and I prototyped it on Codepen before actually implementing it onto my site. I probably did it in a very basic and silly way that I probably should not have done, but I just really wanted to get into like building an SVG from the very basics of just purely through code without even getting into Illustrator. And for the design, for the device orientation, if you go to brianmontana.net, you can just kind of like turn your phone and the 3D SVG will also just like reposition itself.
So it's a two-dimensional SVG that isn't being rotated, it's being redrawn in 3D perspective?
No, it's just like purely 3D. I kind of set it up so that it's like a 3D model, like on planes.
Got it.
And
that's at brianmontana.com?
Yep.
.net.
Yep, .net. .com was taken because a jerk of a host did not want to transfer the rights, and then they wanted to charge me like hundreds of dollars for it.
Jerks?
I don't even remember their name anymore, and I need to.
Is it
I probably will end up buying it though, because I hate the fact that that .com is taken for no reason, and it's not owned by like any politician or like someone that's famous. Yeah. Does anyone else want to come up? It can be like yes. Come on, Sean. His last name is Coates.
His last
Hello, I'm Sean. I work at McDonald's, and I work in the grill section. I didn't really plan on sharing today, so I'm not sure what I'm going to show you, but I got a few tricks up my sleeve. This laptop's way better than the MacBook Air, by the way. I freaking love it.
It's like
This thing's
5
cool.
pounds or something.
Yeah, it's freaking tiny, but it's like, I love it. Okay. So I program in like pure HTML, and this is, so I've been working on 2 things. This one's kind of boring, but this one's kind of fun. And I think, I don't really have very much to explain and to like teach about it, but it's like, it's using that blur property. You make like you use SVG and then, you go to filter. There it is. It's not an SVG. What am I talking about? Okay, it's filter. So you do blur and contrast, and then it so it like blurs the stuff, and then you crank up the contrast, and it will make it kind of look like kind of gooey. And I made this little thing that's kind of like you can run your mouse through, and it makes it look like you're going through goo. And it's using kind of just a little pinch of JavaScript where it, I'm messing up all your gestures, where it just draws like some text, which is like ink, so we could say like hi, and then it will say hi. It draws the text, and then it does kind of, I've made this function, it's called scan, which kind of goes over the canvas, and it looks for like where stuff has been drawn to, and then it will pick out points and then draw little dots there. And I can show you kind of the dots if we comment out this guy. Now they're kind of dots, and that's just the difference in kind of that blur property, and if you were just drawing circles, which kind of adds like a cool effect. And you can put this on like anything on the web, and if you make a gooey effect, you're like, it makes you extra cool. And so I had like a small issue with this where I was drawing 1 dot for every single pixel, and font is like really high DPI, so it would make like 1,000,000 pixels, and it couldn't run at 60 frames, so we had to figure out some way to make it work. And what I did is I created like this thing I call density, where it can kind of like skip pixels, so you don't have to scan each one, and then you can kind of change it to being like, maybe you want no density, or maybe you want to be crazy and go, whoa. And this computer's going to explode right now. It's getting really hot. But yeah, that's all. It's kind of, it was just like a fun thing to mess around. I've seen the filter property like 1,000,000 times, and I'm like, man, I want to be cool too. And so I freaking did it. And I think that when you guys go home, you should use the filter property and make some gooey stuff, because it makes you really feel really cool. Okay, that's me.
All right. Does anyone else want to present? No? Oh, do you? Okay, you're just scratching your head. That's cool. Thank you very much for joining. Yeah, it was a wonderful turnout. Everyone showed awesome stuff.
If you smoke, be sure to get one of these.
Oh, yeah. I have a bunch of stuff from Codepen. Water bottles. I also still have some shirts. One for each size, small, medium, large, extra large. If you're interested, come on up. Yes, see, come on up.
Do you have a large?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I have medium, extra large, and small.
Thanks.
And I have a small left. No one for the small?
I'll take a small.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
What do you think next one is?
So I'm talking
talking with